You see that? That's the exact moment Karen from the HOA learned that steel is stronger than entitlement, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me tell you how a power-hungry HOA board member met her match in the form of industrial-grade bollards. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because today's story is about property rights, petty revenge, and one very satisfying insurance claim. Let's get into it. 2 years ago, I bought my dream property, 15 acres of beautiful ranch land about 40 minutes outside the city, rolling hills, a small creek running through it, and the kind of peace and quiet you can't put a price on. I've been saving for years, and finally at 32, I owned a piece of heaven. Now here's the thing, my property is technically within the boundaries of a rural HOA, and before you panic, it wasn't one of those nightmare HOA you hear about. The fees were minimal, about $200 a year, and they mainly handled road maintenance and snow removal for private road leading to our properties. The HOA had maybe 20 properties total, all large lots, most of them 5 acres or more. Everyone pretty much kept to themselves. It was perfect. My property had a long driveway, probably a quarter-mile from the main road to my house. At the entrance, there was an old ranch gate, the kind with 2 posts and a chain link span that you had to get out and open manually. It was on my property, about 50 feet past the property line, clearly marking the entrance to my driveway. I installed a new automatic gate about 2 months after moving in. Nothing fancy, just a basic sliding gate with a keypad and remote access. It made life easier, especially in winter. That's when I met Linda. Let's call her what she is, an HOA Karen of the highest order. Linda lived about half a mile down the road and had apparently been the HOA president for the last 7 years. Now in a 20-property HOA where nothing ever happens, being president isn't exactly demanding. But Linda treated it like she was running a Fortune 500 company. Our first interaction was at an HOA meeting about 3 months after I'd moved in. I showed up to introduce myself, figured it was the neighborly thing to do. Linda immediately zeroed in on me. "Oh, you're the one who put up that gate," she said with enough venom that you'd think I'd installed a nuclear waste facility. I explained it was on my property for my privacy and security. She got this tight smile and said, "Well, we'll have to see about that. The HOA bylaws have very specific requirements about structure visible from the road." I checked the bylaws that night. There was nothing about gates, nothing even close, but that didn't stop Linda from sending me a formal letter the next week, claiming my gate was a visual nuisance and demanding I remove it. I responded professionally, citing the bylaws, including a survey showing the gate was entirely on my property, and politely declining to remove it. That's when things escalated. Linda started driving through my property. Not past it, not around it, through it. The first time, I thought it was an accident. I came home to find my gate wide open and tire tracks going up my driveway, then through the grass making a loop and back out. I checked my security cameras I just installed, and there she was, Linda in her white Lexus SUV, bold as brass, punching in random numbers on my keypad until she gave up, then just driving around the gate through my yard. I called her. She claimed she was inspecting HOA common areas. I explained very clearly that my property was not a common area. She said something about needing to verify property boundaries and hung up. It happened again 3 days later, then a week after that, then twice in 1 week. Every time she'd drive onto my property, sometimes going all the way up to my house, circling around, tearing up my grass and leaving. My cameras caught everything. I sent her certified letters. I called the police, but since she was technically using the driveway initially, they called it a civil matter and wouldn't do anything unless I had a no trespass order. So I got one, filed the paperwork, had her served. You know what she did. She showed up at my gate the next DY with a copy of the HOA bylaws and a tape measure, claiming she was exercising her duties as HOA president to inspect compliance. I realized Linda wasn't going to stop. She was obsessed. In her mind, me having a gate she couldn't control was some kind of personal insult. She'd gone full tyrant mode and I was her target, so I did what any reasonable person would do. I researched the absolute hell out of property law, HOA regulations, and physical security measures. I confirmed several key facts. 1. My gate was 100% on my property. Survey confirmed it, county records confirmed it, there was no dispute. 2. The HOA had zero authority over structures on private property that didn't violate specific written covenants. They had no such covenants about gates. 3. I had legal right to protect my property from trespass, including installing physical barriers. 4. Linda's repeated trespassing, despite a legal no trespass order, could result in criminal charges, but I needed to exhaust all reasonable measures first. Then I found my solution: bollards. For those who don't know, bollards are those thick steel or concrete posts you see protecting buildings from vehicle attacks. They're rated to stop cars, trucks, even large vehicles moving at high speeds. They're permanent, they're legal, and they're 100% effective. I found a company that specialized in high-security bollards, commercial-grade steel-reinforced concrete cores rated to stop a vehicle moving at 40 miles per hour. These weren't decorative posts. These were the real deal. I had them come out for a consultation. The owner, this grizzled former military guy named Dave, looked at my situation and just grinned. "Yeah, we can help you with that." The quote was steep. About $8,000 for 6 bollards installed in a line blocking the gap beside my gate. But you know what? Worth every penny. I scheduled the installation for a Tuesday. Linda usually did her trespass routine on weekends, so I figured I had time. Dave's crew showed up with a concrete drill rig that looked like it could dig to the center of the earth. Each bollard required a hole 4 feet deep and 18 inches wide. They drop in a steel-reinforced concrete footer, then embed a 6-inch diameter steel pipe filled with concrete, leaving about 3 feet above ground. The installation took 2 days. By Thursday afternoon, I had 6 beautiful, shiny steel bollards forming an impenetrable barrier next to my gate. Each one was painted safety yellow at the top for visibility, with reflective tape. They looked professional, clean, and absolutely immovable. Dave patted one of them as they finished. "Trust me," he said, "nothing short of a tank is getting through these, and even then the tank might lose." I paid the man, thanked his crew, and waited. I didn't have to wait long. That Saturday morning, I was inside having coffee when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of metal meeting metal at speed, followed by the crunch of fiberglass and the explosion of an airbag. I ran outside. There, wedged against my beautiful new bollards, was Linda's white Lexus SUV. The front end was completely crumpled, the hood was buckled, the bumper was on the ground, both airbags had deployed, and steam was pouring from the engine. Linda was standing outside her car, screaming. Not hurt, just furious. Her phone was out, and she was yelling at someone, I assume 911, about how I'd booby-trapped my property. I walked up calmly. "Linda, what happened?" She lost it. Started screaming about how I'd installed illegal barriers and how I'd be paying for her car. And how she was calling the police and her lawyer and the county, and basically everyone who'd ever had authority over anything. I just smiled. "Linda, those are legally installed bollards on my private property. You crashed into them while trespassing, which you've been served a legal notice not to do. I have it all on camera." Again, the police showed up about 10 minutes later, 2 officers, both of whom had responded to my previous calls about Linda. When they saw the situation, I literally watched one of them try not to laugh. They took statements. I provided my camera footage showing Linda deliberately driving around my gate, accelerating toward the gap where she'd always bypassed it before, and hitting the bollards at approximately 25 miles per hour. The officers explained to Linda that she'd committed criminal trespass, reckless driving on private property, and destruction of property, her own property ironically. They cited her on the spot. Linda's insurance company called me 3 days later. Apparently, she'd filed a claim and blamed me for the accident. I sent them the footage, the no trespass order, the certified letters, and documentation of the bollard installation, including permits. The claim was denied within 24 hours. Then her lawyer sent me a letter threatening to sue. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, who sent back a beautiful response essentially saying, "Try it. We'll countersue for harassment and property damage from her previous trespassing." We never heard from them again. The HOA held an emergency meeting. Turns out, several other property owners were thrilled with what happened. Linda had been harassing multiple people for years about petty violations. With her credibility destroyed and facing legal issues, she resigned as president. The new president, a retired teacher named Margaret, who actually read the bylaws and understood what an HOA is supposed to do. We're all much happier now. My bollards are still there, shiny and proud. I haven't had a single trespassing incident since. Linda moved away about 6 months after the incident. I heard she tried to start trouble in her new neighborhood's HOA, but that's someone else's problem now. The moral of the story: know your property rights, document everything, And sometimes the best defense is a good bollard. If you enjoyed this story of justified revenge and standing up to HOA tyranny, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Drop a comment telling me about your HOA horror stories. I read every single one. Until next time, protect your property, know your rights, and never let the Karens win.